Mayers. Not guilty of
ASAP Rocky just pulled off the ultimate courtroom mic drop, and the world can't stop talking about it. After weeks of tense testimony, explosive claims, and a looming 24-year prison sentence hanging over his head, the jury finally made their decision. Not guilty. And the second those words were spoken, the energy in that courtroom shifted. You could feel the weight of the entire trial collapse in an instant. But what happened next? That's what sent the internet into a complete meltdown.
The Los Angeles Superior Court, County of Los Angeles. People of the State of California versus Joaquin Mayers. Case number BA 508142-01. We, the jury in the above entitled action, find the defendant, Joaquin Mayers, not guilty of the
Not get the audience. Or you cannot get the audience.
Hold down.
Verdict has to be read on count.
Repeat again. We, the jury, above entitled action, find the defendant, Joaquin Mayers, not guilty of the
In a moment that felt straight out of a movie, ASAP Rocky didn't just breathe a sigh of relief. He leaped over the courtroom barrier, crossing the gallery in a split second, and landed straight into Rihanna's arms. It was raw, unfiltered emotion. A man who had just gotten his life back, holding on for dear life to the woman who stood by him through it all. Rihanna, visibly emotional, wrapped her arms around him in a way that said everything. This wasn't just about the trial. This was about their family, their future, their entire world almost being ripped apart. And in that single moment, the cameras captured what might go down as one of the most iconic courtroom reactions in celebrity history. But how do we even get here? This wasn't just a trial. This was a media circus, an all-out war of narratives, and at the center of it all was a single claim, that ASAP Rocky had allegedly fired a gun at his former friend, rapper Terrell Efron, on a Hollywood street in 2021. The prosecution came in swinging, trying to paint ASAP as a reckless, dangerous figure, a celebrity who thought he was untouchable. But there was one huge problem. The evidence just wasn't there. No weapon was ever recovered. No forensic proof linked ASAP to the shooting. And worst of all for the prosecution, their key witness, Terrell Efron himself, was a walking contradiction. On the stand, his story fell apart, detail by detail. He couldn't keep his timeline straight. He contradicted himself multiple times. And by the time AARP's lawyers got their turn, they made sure the jury saw exactly what was happening. Without Efron's testimony, there was no case. And then came the moment that sealed it. The lead detective, who had been trying to keep the case together, was forced to admit, under oath, that without Efron's testimony, there was nothing. No physical evidence, no surveillance footage, nothing concrete linking Rocky to the crime. You could almost hear the air getting sucked out of the prosecution's argument. It was over. The jury saw through it. They didn't need days to deliberate. Within hours, they came back with their decision. Rocky was a free man. And the second that verdict was read, chaos, relief, emotion. ASAP Rocky, who had sat through every grueling day of this trial, finally let go. And he ran straight for the person who had been his rock throughout it all, Rihanna. His lawyers called it a moment of pure happiness, a release of all the stress and fear that had been bottled up for years. The prosecution? Not so thrilled. Los Angeles County District Attorney Nathan J. Hodman released a statement saying that while they were disappointed with the verdict, they respected the jury's decision. But let's be real, this was a disaster for them.
Was he in a single leap went over the jury box, but I mean the spectator row. Look, that was raw emotion. That was happiness. You know, there was a moment where, before we heard the words from the clerk, you know, he didn't know if he was going to be spending the next 2 decades in jail or going home. And so when you hear those words, obviously, you know, I know how he was feeling. We've been in communication for the last few hours. and there's a lot on the line. He has 2 little children. He's got a beautiful wife, and he's got a family, and so that was raw emotion. You guys got to see that, and it was even for us. I mean, it was insane. So it was just very, very satisfying.
Not only did they fail to convict a high-profile defendant, but the case itself collapsed so spectacularly that people are now asking the bigger question. Why was this even brought to trial in the first place? AP's lawyers made sure to drive that point home, blasting the prosecution for relying on a witness they knew had credibility issues from day one. But it's not just Rocky's team saying it. Social media went into overdrive, and the reactions were brutal. Fans flooded the internet, calling the trial a witch hunt, an embarrassment, and even a calculated attempt to destroy his career. And let's talk about that, because in the entertainment industry, a high-profile trial isn't just about the law. It's about public perception, brand deals, and the court of public opinion. For months, Rocky had been forced to watch as his name was dragged through the mud, his entire legacy put on trial alongside his freedom. The impact on his career? Massive. Certain brands put their partnerships with him on hold. Industry insiders whispered about whether his future in music and fashion would be forever tainted. The pressure wasn't just on him, it was on Rihanna too. Because let's be real, this wasn't just Rocky's fight. This was Rihanna's fight too. She had to deal with headlines questioning her decision to stand by him. People speculated about her reputation, her loyalty, even the future of her billion-dollar empire. But she never wavered. Every day of that trial, she showed up. And that moment in the courtroom, when Rocky leaped in her arms, it wasn't just about love. It was about solidarity. It was about survival. Now that the dust is settling, one question remains. What's next for ASAP Rocky? Well, one thing's for sure. He's not walking into an empty future. He's got Rihanna, their 2 children, an empire of music, fashion, and creative ventures waiting for him. But this case, it left its mark. The stress, the media frenzy, the possibility of losing everything. It changes a person. And here's where things get even more interesting. Because sources close to Rocky say he's already planning his next big move. A documentary? A tell-all interview? A new album addressing the case? The possibilities are endless. And if there's one thing we know about ASAP Rocky, it's that he's a master of turning controversy into cultural moments. Meanwhile, the legal world is buzzing. Could this case impact future celebrity trials? Will prosecutors think twice before taking on a high-profile figure without bulletproof evidence? And most importantly, will Terrell Efron face consequences for what many are now calling a false accusation? This story isn't just about one man beating the system. It's about the power of resilience, the loyalty of a partner, and the brutal reality of what happens when fame collides with the justice system. So, will ASAP Rocky finally speak out? Will he tell his side of the story, raw and unfiltered? Or will he let this victory speak for itself? One thing is certain, this case is over, but the conversation is far from finished.